Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to do one of my favorite genres of move because I absolutely love the clockwork entry. This is such a pretty transition and it's really kind of like mind bendy, so when the audience watches it, they're like, what just happened? So I use it in basically all of my routines. And today we're going to learn 3 different moves that start with a clockwork entry. So first I'm going to explain the clockwork entry if you haven't done it before. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it, but it's one of those things that you do have to just kind of remember first this step and then this step and then this step. And if you follow all the steps, it will come out correctly. It's easier to think about following the steps and trying to like envision it in your brain because that is tricky, even for me at this point, who's done it roughly 3.5 million times. And then I'm going to teach you 3 different options. We're going to do 1 drop and 2 splits. Well, technically 3 splits, but 2 of them are used in 1 move. So I'm going to count it as 2 splits. But anyway, it's a fun entry, it's a fun transition, and it's really pretty, and it's a really useful thing to have in your aerial toolkit. So yeah, let's hop on the hoop and get started. Okay, let's start by just reviewing a basic clockwork entry. I'm going to start from my hocks, so both knees hooked on the top bar. Then I'm going to reach up with my hands and place one hand on each side of my knees, a little bit wider than my knees. Next, I'm going to take one leg off and hook my toes on the side of the hoop between my arm and the side of the hoop. So I'm really passing my foot through and hooking it on the opposite side. Finally, I'm going to push against the hoop with my leg, straighten it and slide it down to the center, and I can take my other leg off. This is the basis for all the moves we're going to do today. Okay, let's move on to some actual moves now. The first one is a classic. You might have already done it or at least heard of it. It's the Russian split, but I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do it and how to get into it out of a clockwork entry. So of course, I'm going to start with my clockwork entry again. I'm taking my leg off. I'm hooking my foot on the opposite side of the hoop. I'm pushing against the hoop as I straighten my leg and slide it all the way to the bottom. Then my second leg comes off. I'm going to place the foot of that second leg on the bottom of the hoop with the middle of my foot on the bottom of the hoop. Finally, that first leg is going to come off and come through my arms, reaching back. Now, the first version we're going to do is the hips up version of the Russian split. So it's just what it sounds like. I'm pulling up with my arms, I'm arching my back, I'm lifting my hips, and I'm bringing my hips up high close to the hoop. Then I'm going to transition to my second version of my Russian split simply by dropping my hips down away from my hands and letting my body come towards my front leg. This is the hips down version. They're both really nice versions, and I really like putting them together in a combo like this. Finally, to come out of it, I'm going to bring that back leg through my arms, rehook it on the top, then tuck my head up. Tucking your head up is very important so you don't get hit by the rebound of the hoop, and rehook both legs on, coming back into my hocks. Let's watch that whole thing again in real time. Like I said, doing these 2 Russian splits in a combo is a really nice way to show both of them off, and it makes them look kind of extra fancy. You do need a lot of grip strength, so make sure that your hands feel nice and solid and secure and strong on the top bar because you are hanging from your hands. Your foot is on the hoop, but it's not bearing any weight, so this is very hand-centric. Finally, as I come back into the hoop, I'm rehooking that back leg. And I'm going to lift up my head as high as possible again because I want to avoid that rebound of the hoop. And I'm also controlling the hoop with my leg that is still on the hoop. Watch how I bend my knee to control the hoop. Right there. And then I can slide my foot off again with my head nice and tucked up. Move number 2, it's going to be another splitty one. By the way, if you are not a flexible splitty person, don't worry because move number 3 is going to be a more dynamic move and not splits focused at all. But for now, we're going to do a Scorpio. This is similar to a Russian split. The difference is that your foot is not going to be on the bottom of the hoop. So again, I'm going to start from, surprise, surprise, my clockwork mount. Sliding the leg down. All of these, when you slide your leg down, you want to make sure that it comes right to the center of the bottom bar of the hoop. Centered leg is very important. Now to do a Scorpio, I'm going to take my second leg off and bring it in the same place as my first leg. So both my legs are stretched and straight in front of me. Then I'm going to take my first leg, so I'm switching legs here is basically what's happening, and bring it back onto the back side of the hoop. You can see how my leg is going behind the hoop. Next, I extend it up to point towards the sky. I pull up with my arms, I use my abs, I arch my back, and I'm doing basically the hips up Russian split, but this version, my foot is not on the bottom bar, so it changes the angle of the move, which makes it look entirely different. Another great version of the Scorpio is bending your foot towards your head. If you're a really bendy back person, you can even touch your head with your back foot. I am not that person, so I'm just going to do this, but it's still pretty. This is slightly trickier to come out of than a Russian split. I'm going to extend that back leg back up towards the ceiling, let my hips slide down just a little, bring the back leg into the hoop, and hook it on the top bar, ready to go back into a hawks. Here comes the tricky part. I'm going to show you two versions of what to do with that front foot. The first one is to sickle it. I know I say don't sickle, but in this case you kind of need to, so that you can slide it on to hook on the bottom bar. And then you're coming out just like a Russian by tucking up your head, sliding your foot off the bottom of the hoop, and then rehooking your knee back into hawks on the top bar. That was version number 1. It can feel a little awkward and clunky, especially if you're a tall person like me, so you're trying to get your leg to fit inside the hoop. Here's a different option. In option number 2, I'm in my Scorpio, and the same as option number 1, I'm going to straighten that leg, bring it up towards the ceiling. I'm letting my hips come down just a little so I have space to bend my knee and bring my leg to the front of the hoop. Instead of hooking it on this time, I'm going to put my foot on the bottom of the hoop and then use that foot to control the hoop so I can take my first leg back, hook it into hawks, and then again, I'm coming out just like the Russian by tucking my head up and slipping my foot off the bottom bar of the hoop, coming back into my hawks. I find that exit a little bit more secure and a lot more graceful. Here's that one again in real time. With the Scorpio, it is really important to try to get your head up and looking back and out at your audience as you're in the full position. If your head is looking down, it's just going to make the whole split look a little bit less impressive. It's not going to pop as much as it does if I'm looking back and up with my head. This is also another one where you're hanging from your hands. So you want to make sure that your hands feel good, feel grippy, feel strong, feel like you've got a good grip before you go into the full position. Okay, enough splits. Let's go for our dynamic option, which is a drop that I like to call the tuck foot drop because you are tucking your foot underneath your leg, but I've heard it called other things as well. Of course, we're going to start it again from our clockwork entry. Remember also to put your hands in a good place. If your hands are too wide, you won't have as much space to put your foot through to hook it on the back of the hoop. And if your hands are too narrow, you're going to struggle because it's harder to balance, especially in the splits when you're hanging from your hands and your hands are quite narrow and close together. So having that nice medium width, it's a little bit wider than my knees, it's a little bit wider than my shoulders, is going to help me out a lot. So I've done my clockwork entry. I'm now to the point where I'm bringing my second leg down. And this time I'm going to straighten that leg and leave it behind the hoop. Then I'm going to bring my hips down the back into a skin the cat while letting the front leg hook onto the bar of the hoop. My shoulders are pretty flexible, so I'm able to take my hips quite low. You can see they're below the hoop here. But if your hips are higher, that is fine as long as that leg is hooked on in the front. I'm also taking my bottom free leg and hooking it around the front of my other foot for a nice secure lock. Finally, I let go with my hands and I'm thinking about swinging my body out in a half circle that swings me all the way underneath the hoop into my single knee hang here. I should feel nice and solid here, having ended in a nice single knee hang, and I can do a few little extra shapes if I feel like it. Here's that one again in real time. In any drop like this, it's really important to protect your knee. The way that you do that in this drop is first of all by engaging the muscles of your leg. So you're not just dropping your weight onto your knee, you're using your leg muscles to help in the movement as you go down. The other way you do that is by swinging yourself around in a half circle and not straight down. I know it looks a little straight down, but I am going around. There it was. That was 3 different moves from the Clockwork Entry. Of course, there are loads more moves you can do from a Clockwork Entry, but these are just 3 of my favorites that I thought I'd throw at you guys today. But before I go, I want to make a little announcement because there's something very exciting happening behind me. You can't see it right now, obviously, because right now it's just a hoop and a stone wall behind me. But behind me is my barn. If you see my other YouTube channel, you'll know about this, but basically 2 years ago, I bought a house in the countryside in France. I live in Paris, I'm based in Paris, but I've bought this house in Auvergne that I'm turning into, slowly, a space for aerial retreats and workshops. And it came, which is one of the reasons I bought it, with a giant barn that is 7.5 meters high. And today, the workmen came to start work on turning the barn into a giant aerial studio. I'm so excited about this because it is going to be beautiful. Even just seeing the work that they started doing today, it's going to be gorgeous, you guys. I'm hoping to start doing some workshops and retreats spring or summer of next year. If you want to follow the progress and see what goes into creating the studio, then check out my other channel, which is called Escape to Everdeen. Everdeen is the name of this house and this property. I'll link it in the description of this video if you're interested in any of that. There should be some very interesting and fun aerial studio creation videos coming up. That's all coming soon. I will keep you guys kind of apprised on this channel of the progress towards when I can start doing workshops, but yeah, I'm just pretty jazzed about it, so I just wanted to mention it at this point. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there for today, and I'll just remind you guys to please do subscribe to this channel if you have not already. And if you are subscribed, apparently YouTube is like unsubscribing people randomly from a lot of channels, so like maybe check that you are still subscribed if you want to keep seeing tutorials and aerial videos like this, and hit the thumbs up while you're down there, and I will see you guys next time.